All right, let's kick off another deep dive. And today we are heading straight into Nollywood, this time to check out the film Brotherhood.
Oh, Brotherhood, yeah.
Yeah, our listener is super interested in this one. And to help us out, we've got that detailed review from MovieKaTicket. They're known for some pretty insightful analysis. So let's get into it.
Yeah, and you know what really jumps out at me about this film? It's ambitious. Like, really ambitious.
Okay.
It kind of blends this really heart-pounding action with a very, very personal story, about family, betrayal, and
Wow.
the choices that we make when we're faced with trauma. It's a really potent combination, and it seems to be resonating with audiences all over the world.
Yeah, and the plot itself sounds so gripping, like twin brothers Whale and Iken, they witness their parents' murder, like talk about a traumatic start.
Oh, yeah.
And then their paths diverge like so drastically after that, with Whale choosing the path of justice by becoming a police officer.
Right.
And Iken getting involved with this notorious gang. So like, wow, talk about setting up some conflict.
Exactly. And that's where the film really digs deep. It'd be so easy to just kind of paint Aiken as simply the bad brother. But Brotherhood really digs into the complexities of his character. You see how his trauma manifests and kind of leads him to look for belonging and power, within the criminal underworld.
And, it makes me curious, how does Tobi Bakre, the actor who plays Aiken, how does he bring all of that complexity to life? Because the review mentions that it's a career-defining performance.
Yeah.
So what makes it so special?
I think Baker's performance is so captivating because he somehow manages to portray both the hardened exterior that you'd expect of a criminal, but also this vulnerability of a man who's really wrestling with his past.
Yeah.
He embodies that internal struggle so well, Aiken's desire for a different life, while also being pulled back in by the gang.
So he's carrying a lot of emotional weight then. And
Yeah.
what about Falz as well? The review kind of hints that his character also has this internal conflict, being torn between his duty as a lawman and also his love for his brother.
Oh, absolutely. Falz delivers this really nuanced performance as Whale.
Yeah.
He's not just some kind of stereotypical good cop,
Right.
He's a man who's burdened by a lot of responsibility and is really grappling with the choices that his brother has made. You can feel his turmoil as the lines between his personal and professional life really start to blur.
Yeah, so we've got these incredible performances driving this really high-stakes plot, but one thing that really struck me when I was reading the review was the emphasis on the action sequences.
Yeah.
They even use the phrase Hollywood-level precision.
Wow, yeah.
What makes these scenes stand out so much?
I think it's more than just the technical side of it all, though the stunts and the effects are really impressive. But it's how the director, Loukman Ali, uses the action to really make the emotional stakes of the story even higher.
Right.
Take, for instance, the climactic heist scene. It's just this masterclass in building tension. And we're on the edge of our seats, not just because of the stunts, but because we really understand the emotional reasons behind Akin's choices.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just action for the sake of action. It has a real purpose. And speaking of purpose, the choice to film in Lagos must contribute to that energy and intensity.
Oh, yeah.
So how does the city itself almost become like a character in the film?
Lagos just has this energy about it, right?
Yeah.
It's this blend of opportunity and hardship, tradition and, modernity. And the filmmakers capture that so well.
Yeah.
Like the bustling markets, the nightlife, even the underbelly of the city. It all becomes a backdrop to these twins' diverging paths. And you really see how the environment that they grew up in shaped them, for better or worse.
It really seems like Brotherhood is a visual feast. Does the review go into detail about any specific techniques that the director uses to achieve that?
Yeah, so one thing that I found really interesting is how he uses color to kind of underscore the emotional themes. Whale, who's representing law and order, is often shown in these cool blues and grays, while Aiken, who's caught up in the criminal world, is surrounded by these really warm tones. It's almost like a fire burning out of control. It's subtle, but really effective in showing their inner struggles.
Wow. So we've got these intense performances, thrilling action sequences, and a whole visual language that adds depth to the characters. I'm already getting a sense of just how layered this film is.
Yeah, and we've barely scratched the surface. Brotherhood has so much more to offer, especially when it comes to its themes and cultural significance.
Well, I am definitely hooked. So let's dive deeper into those themes in the next part of this deep dive. What can you tell us about some of those broader ideas that Brotherhood explores?
Yeah, we'll look at how the conflict between the brothers becomes a really powerful metaphor for some big societal issues. and the effect of trauma on individuals and communities. Get ready for a thought-provoking journey.
All right, so we're back and ready to jump into some of those thought-provoking themes you mentioned. We've got this gripping story of twin brothers on totally opposite sides of the law, but it sounds like Brotherhood goes so much deeper than just a good versus evil story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the film uses that contrast, those contrasting paths, to really explore these much bigger issues like, the cycle of poverty, the pull of getting rich quick versus struggling to make an honest living, and all the things in the system that kind of lead people towards crime.
So it's not shying away from social commentary then?
Not at all. It's woven right into the story itself.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Lagos almost being like a character?
Yeah.
Well, the city itself almost becomes like a microcosm of all these societal issues. You see this huge contrast between the super wealthy and then those who are just struggling to survive. And you can see how that just breeds resentment and desperation.
Right, and that makes me think about Akin's character again. Like, he's not just some villain, he's a product of the environment he grew up in, someone who's been let down by the system.
Exactly, and that's what makes Brotherhood so compelling. It forces us to think about these uncomfortable truths about society and how we create the conditions that lead to crime.
It sounds like this really powerful indictment of social inequality, but there's also that theme of family that runs through the film. How does that play out alongside all these bigger issues?
I think the film is reminding us that even with all this chaos and division, family bonds can still stay strong.
Okay.
Even though they choose different paths, Whale and Okin still have this deep connection. Their love for each other is tested constantly, but it never really disappears.
That reminds me of that scene the review describes where Whale confronts Akin during this really tense standoff. Even though he's pointing a gun at his own brother, you can still sense that Whale wants to save him.
Yeah, that scene is so pivotal. It really encapsulates the whole central conflict of the film. Duty versus loyalty. Whale's torn between upholding the law and protecting his brother. It's a dilemma that a lot of people can relate to.
For sure. It makes you wonder how you'd react in a similar situation. Like, would you choose justice or family? Those are some tough questions.
Yeah, tough questions. And the film doesn't give you any easy answers. Brotherhood pushes us to examine our own morals and beliefs about right and wrong and loyalty and betrayal.
And that kind of brings us to the theme of redemption. Does the film offer any hope for characters like Akin? Is there any chance for them to escape that cycle of violence and crime?
That's where it gets really interesting. Brotherhood doesn't shy away from the consequences of Akin's actions at all. But it also hints that redemption is possible. It's just really, really difficult. It's like a journey, not a destination.
And I imagine that journey is made even harder by the fact that Akin's caught up in this corrupt system. Like, the lines between right and wrong are already blurred, making it even harder to make the right choices.
You're spot on. The film really exposes the hypocrisy of this system that claims to be about justice, but then keeps inequality going. It makes you question if real redemption is even possible in a broken system.
So it's not just a story about individual choices then, it's reflecting on all those societal structures that influence the choices people make. It really sounds like Brotherhood is a multi-layered critique of Nigerian society.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of what makes it so important. It's not just entertaining, it's starting important discussions about the things Nigeria is facing.
So it's more than just a typical genre film then.
Definitely.
It's engaging with real issues and pushing viewers to think critically about their own society. But with all this talk about themes and social commentary, I almost forgot to ask about the tone of the film. Is it all dark and gritty, or are there some lighter moments?
Well, the film definitely tackles serious stuff, but there are moments of levity. I mean, the director knows it's important to balance that intense drama with some humor. The supporting characters, particularly the ones played by comedians like Basket Mouth and Mr. Macaroni, they bring in humor, giving us a bit of a break from the heavy stuff.
Okay, good to know. So it sounds like it's carefully done, giving this emotional experience without getting too depressing.
Yeah, exactly. Brotherhood is the kind of film that'll stick with you long after it's over, making you think about the complex realities of life in Nigeria.
We've talked so much about the impact of the film in terms of the themes and social commentary, but what about its impact on the Nigerian film industry, Nollywood itself? You mentioned earlier that Brotherhood is putting Nollywood on the map globally.
Oh yeah, definitely. Brotherhood shows how Nollywood is really growing up as an industry. The film's technical side of things is amazing. The visuals are stunning, the action is so well choreographed, and the different genres are blended perfectly. It proves that Nollywood can make films that meet global standards.
So it's not just about the story then, it's about how well made it is.
For sure. Brotherhood really shows off the talent of all the Nigerian filmmakers, from the director and writer to the people behind the camera, editing, sound, everyone. It's a sign of how professional Nollywood is becoming.
And how has it been received, like, critically? Has it won any awards or anything?
It's been a big success, critically and commercially. Like, as of December 2024, it was the 8th highest grossing Nigerian film in cinemas, which is huge.
Oh, wow.
It also got quite a few nominations at the Africa Magic Viewers' Choice Awards, including Best Director and Best Actor for Tobi Bakre.
Those are a big deal then.
Oh yeah, the AMVCAs are like the Oscars of African cinema. They recognize the best filmmaking across the continent, so for Brotherhood to be nominated for several awards is a big deal. It shows that it's been recognized by people in the industry and the critics.
So Brotherhood is a bit of a game changer for Nollywood then. It's pushing boundaries, getting all this praise, and grabbing international attention.
Yeah, and it's opening the door for other filmmakers to tell bold, ambitious stories that showcase how diverse and rich Nigerian culture is. Brotherhood shows that Nollywood is coming into its own, and I'm really excited to see where it goes next.
It's really amazing to see how Brotherhood is making such a big impact, both in Nigeria and around the world. It just shows how powerful storytelling can be. Like, it goes beyond borders. But for someone who hasn't seen it yet, what would you say is like the main takeaway? Why should they check out this film?
I'd say Brotherhood gives you a look into a world that we don't often see in mainstream movies. It's a glimpse into what life is like in Nigeria today, a country dealing with poverty, corruption, and trying to figure out its identity. But more than that, it's a story about how strong human connections can be. It's about making tough choices in really hard situations and having hope for redemption even in the darkest times.
Yeah, that really hits home. We hear about these issues, but Brotherhood seems to make them real, showing us these characters and their struggles.
Yeah, exactly. And it manages to do that without losing the entertainment factor. You get pulled into the story with the action, the visuals, the performances. It's all there. But then the film sticks with you. You keep thinking about those big questions about family, loyalty, and how society shapes us.
I'm also curious about the ending of the film. I don't want any spoilers, but does it offer any kind of resolution to all these complex issues? Or does it leave you with unanswered questions?
Let's just say that the ending is both satisfying and makes you think. It doesn't wrap everything up perfectly, but it leaves you with a sense of hope and understanding that the journey towards justice and redemption never really ends.
That sounds like a really powerful way to end a film dealing with such heavy themes. Brotherhood feels like a film that you have to talk about and debate.
Absolutely. It's a film that will start conversations and make you question your own ideas. And that's what makes a great film. It sticks with you, it makes you think critically, and it changes how you see the world around you.
Well, this deep dive has definitely made me want to see Brotherhood. It's clearly more than just an action thriller. It has something to say. It's making a statement about Nigerian cinema and how it can reach people all over the world.
And this is just the beginning. Nollywood is bursting with energy, and there's so much more to come. Brotherhood is a sign of the amazing things that are on their way.
So if you're looking for a film that will entertain you, challenge you, and stay with you long after you've seen it, Brotherhood is a must-watch. And who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to explore more of what Nollywood has to offer.
Couldn't agree more. Check out Brotherhood and see the magic of Nigerian storytelling for yourself.
And that's a wrap, folks. Our deep dive into Brotherhood is done. We hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.